So Frank Lampard has now lost all 4 games since he's been back in a second spell at the club. Listen to this. This is club legend Didier Drogba talking about the hierarchy and Todd Boehly after the game. This is what he said. "I knew this club with a certain class during the Abramovich era, but today I find it lacking. It's very hard for me to see how they got rid of certain people. They should go back to the principles and values they had. I don't recognise my club. It's no longer the same club. There is a new owner and a new vision. Of course, we try and compare it with what happened during the Abramovich era, where a lot of players were brought in, but the decisions were very intelligent." What do we think about those comments from Drogba?
He's right, isn't he? So many people upstairs have been sacked. You know, even when Peter Cech got sacked, you're making all these changes, and it's not worked, has it? The players that have been brought in haven't worked, and Drogba's probably looking at it thinking, "Do I even want to go back and watch this side at the moment?" You know, it's not the club that he left.
What do you think, Ali?
Well, I think the first thing you've got to do, you've got to listen to what he's saying, and it's difficult to argue with his comments. You know what I mean? If he doesn't recognise his club, what chance have his supporters got? It's no longer the same club. It's a new owner, a new vision. I get that, you know, but times do have to move on, right? You know, Abramovich's period was ultra successful, right? Now that can't last forever. The Chelsea fans and Didier Drogba will just be hoping that this is kind of a blitz in time where they get back on track and start seeing progress and moving forward again.
You can have a new project though, can't you? But you can still keep people from the old one on.
Of course.
Do you know the people that understand the club
Absolutely.
and help you?
I like checking people in the back, like the kind of the people that keep it
He's
ticking
got rid of
over,
everyone, didn't
the
he?
identity. We're going to be joined now by a man who loves Chelsea. He's a comedian. He's a super fan. Omid Djalili is with us on the Breakfast Show. Hello, how are you?
Omid, how are you,
Hi,
mate?
guys. Great to see you.
Good morning.
I love the way. Good morning, Gabby. Good morning,
Good morning,
Ali.
mate.
Good morning, Laura. I love the way you got rid of Jim White. That was.
Sorry, Jim.
We love Jim.
That was only because you were coming on, my friend.
I didn't want to waste time.
He's just walked out the studio wiping the custard from his face as we speak.
He barely had time to sit down. I was like, "See you later then." But anyway, let's talk about your club. You heard what Drogba said there, and it's hard to disagree with it, with a legend. How do you see it?
I see it very differently from everyone. You know, football fans love to be negative. You know, there was even people sat next to me at halftime saying, it's just never going to go in. We're done. We're finished. And I think even me, I was on talkSPORT yesterday saying, what's going to happen? It's in our DNA. Chelsea, turn this round. Or we're going to get stuffed. And everyone laughed. And I think that what I saw for the first 60 minutes, I got very, very excited. And I thought Chelsea were great. But there was a moment, and I don't know if it was picked up on the TV, because when you're there, it's very different. Reece James, who was so influential in the game, suddenly seemed to pull up and was walking around. And I don't know if he was taking a break or because I saw something happened to him, and Lampard looked over at Loftus-Cheek and said, "Warm up, you're going right wing back." And it was interesting because they definitely played Reece James much higher than Cucurella on the other side. And then when that happened around the 37th minute, the whole stadium changed. The whole stadium went, "Oh no, he's done, he's finished." And something changed because I thought Chelsea were playing really well. I love the way they were hounding every time the Madrid players had the ball. There was 4 or 5 players around them. We hounded the ball back. And I thought, this is a turnaround. This is very exciting. We were unlucky. There was no one up front to score. And actually, Cucurella, I screamed, "Cucurella!" I was so angry. But then when I saw the replay afterwards, how amazing was Courtois spreading himself? It was an immense save. So actually, I think in these games, you need a bit of luck. And I saw enough to believe that actually Chelsea can turn it round.
You can't win games. You can't win games though unless you score goals. That's the problem, isn't it?
I know. You speak in such a brummy, negative way. I feel influenced by it. We're just going to get hammered every game now.
But I take your point because I'm half full to the extent of maybe madness. But I look at that Chelsea midfield and I honestly think that is as good as anything anywhere. I genuinely do. Fernandes, Kante and Kovacic, superb. They get in wide areas. Listen, there's a lot more, wrong than just basically saying you need a centre forward. There are 1 or 2 other things, but I take your point, my friend. I think within that squad there is absolutely enough talent to be positive and look forward with.
I think so. And look, when we talk about the other problems, there was talk about Todd Boehly going in after the Brighton game, and I was there at the Brighton game, and Chelsea looked like a championship side. And to be fair, Brighton looked like they could win that. I was thinking I was going to put 2 bets down that day: Chelsea to win the Champions League and get relegated, which I thought was a good one. And the second one is Brighton to win the Champions League in a couple of seasons. And Todd Boehly then apparently went into the dressing room and said they were an embarrassment. Now, that to me, for Chelsea fans, that's a red flag, because when Abramovich, if you remember, against Rosenborg in Mourinho's first spell, I think in his 3rd season, Chelsea drew 1-1 with Rosenborg, who were supposedly a weak Norwegian team who actually played. I was at that game. Rosenborg played really, really well. And Abramovich went into the dressing room, and that was the final straw for Jose Mourinho. Then he left by mutual consent a few days later. So obviously Boehly hasn't done his Chelsea kind of history that you don't. If you do that, you have to. If I was an owner and I thought, would it be helpful if I go in and speak to them? I would have to consult with the manager first. If that's happened, Lampard said, yeah, that's fine. But he hasn't done his Chelsea history, because that's how a manager. That's how a manager got. Oh God, was that a fax coming to the door? Oh God, no! They want to come in my room. I'm not wearing any. I'm in a hotel room.
Oh no, he's poo bearing.
I'll come back later. Sorry. Yeah, I've just caught me short now. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. That's quite entertaining. Hey, just before, because I just want to ask you one more question before we have to let you go, because I know you've got other things you need to do today. Where do you stand on Lampard? There were a couple of messages coming through. Andy said, I think you're being harsh on Lampard. If we put those chances away last night, he would have been classed as a genius. He can't help us not scoring. We haven't done it all season.
I agree with that, because if you saw João Felix nearly scored in the 2nd minute at the Bernabeu, and I think had that gone in, it would have been very different. I like Lampard. I've met him a few times. He's a highly intelligent, socially and emotionally intelligent person. And I think that he understands the club's DNA. He understands everything. I was watching him, but I'm just behind him, and I could see the way he was talking. That there's a class to him. If Drogba thinks there's a class that's missing, he will bring the class back. And I think the players are responding to him. We were just a little bit unlucky. That's
Will
my
you stay up
take on it
this season?
Oh, no,
on 39 points.
Good question.
Might need 40 points.
No, that's a fair question, because we haven't scored. And people have been scoring worldies against us, but we haven't been scoring. It was 1 goal by Conor Gallagher, which was the most unbelievable deflection. It is a concern, and I do actually remember there was a season Chelsea were in the 2nd division, and we were about to get promoted, and they didn't win a single game for the last 22 games. And I think it was Clive Walker had to score away at Bolton to save us. Actually, that was a run of 22 games. They didn't win, and I'm worried that could happen to this Chelsea team, but I saw enough to feel that they will stay up, stay positive.
A draw.
But thank you.
Right.
Absolutely.
Omid, go put some trousers on.
Good to talk, mate. Have a great day.
Have a good day,
Cheers,
mate.
guys. Bye-bye now.
See you later.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods. Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.